Holy City Center Radio. It is episode 57, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. Welcome back. We've been off for a little bit, a couple of planned breaks, but then also, unfortunately, we've had an interview cancel or two. So very happy to finally be back and recording an episode. And I hope you all are doing well. We've got a good one for you here today. A couple updates, and then we will be jumping into our interview with Sarah Dionna. She recently launched a business called Arc Take Two, which aims to be a creative place for actors, voiceover artists, filmmakers, pole dancers, aerialists, and more. It's quite the variety of folks in different industries. And I'm excited to hear what exactly she has planned for that space. So be sure to stick around for that. First, quick update from me. In my life, have been very busy and happily so with family being in town. My parents have been here for a couple of weeks. And during that same time frame, my brother and his family came in. So it was great to see him, my sister-in-law, and my niece and nephew. After they left, had a couple days with just my parents again, and then my cousin and her family came in. So I got to see her husband, who I've known for years, of course, and then their two kids. One I haven't seen in years, I think at least 10 maybe. And then the other one was a brand new baby approaching a year. So I hadn't met him yet. So that was fun to have them around and catch up. And now it's back to just my parents. They're here for a little bit longer, but it's been great, going around, eating dinner with the family in the house is always nice too. Having some home-cooked meals for my mom, and then, of course, playing with my niece and nephew. We went to the pool. We went walking on the beach one night as a family, and, it's been a lot of fun. We didn't do anything too crazy, as far as anything new. Most of the tourist things or activities they would do during the day when I was at work, and then so for most of the time I would just be either going out to eat with them or eating here, and then doing something at night, whether it was like watching a movie, like we were watching all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies with the kids, which was a lot of fun. So it's been good. And just happy to have them here. All right, but enough about me. We'll move on to two big stories going on right now. I know there's lots that's been happening here in the Charleston area in South Carolina, and of course, as always, the world. But I think there's two big topics to focus on this week. But also, as we're recording this, the news broke that that Queen Elizabeth has passed at the age of 96. So that's the big national news today as we're talking. So, outside of that, I don't have a lot of details, but it is something big that is happening in the world right now. And kind of almost came out of nowhere. It wasn't like she had been sick, or at least if she was, it wasn't publicly announced. It was just like I woke up and they're like, oh, she's been brought to the hospital and things aren't looking the best. And then, the news broke that she had passed. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that family from here, as far as the line of succession and all that. She had been the longest modern ruling monarch, in modern history. For I think it was 70 years or something crazy like that, because she started when she was in her 20s and she was 96. A big change in a country that, in that position anyway, that they haven't seen. But coming back closer to home, and I'm going to preface this as usual, that this is something that could change. There's a lot going on with the abortion debate right now in the state. So we'll kind of recap what's happened, and as of this recording, where we're at. First, this is the biggest news from this debate. I'll backtrack a moment. In the last episode, I remember talking about State Representative Neil Collins, a Republican who had voted for the original abortion ban, just to quickly get it in place once Roe v. Wade was overturned, knowing that they were going to debate this further later on. They just wanted to get something out there. And he was the representative who kind of went viral for crying and being upset about a situation that he was told about, and he realized, even though, as I mentioned at the time, he had been told these sorts of things would happen, he was just simply shocked that there were consequences to his decision. And as I mentioned, give these folks a little bit of grace. People who are possibly going to change their mind, especially politicians, if you want them to change their mind. Well, I spoke too soon because like a week later, he ended up voting for a new abortion ban, slightly different. So I guess his moment of having conscience went out the window. And look, I'm not trying to say this is an easy decision for Republican lawmakers because depending on the part of the country they're in, their base can be completely different than what the rest of the country is, or different parts of the state. So they have to kind of square what their constituents want with their own personal beliefs on the topic. I know it's not easy, but nonetheless, that whole performative crying nonsense seems even more ridiculous now that he voted for that and then was whining on Twitter when people were giving him a hard time, saying like, oh, people are cursing at me and can't we just be civil? If cursing's not civil, what is taking away someone's bodily autonomy considered? So I don't feel too bad for the guy. So anyway, because the House passed it, it went on to the state Senate. And this week, and I'm pulling this information from an Associated Press story by Jeffrey Collins, who covers South Carolina for the AP. The South Carolina Senate Committee voted on this past Tuesday to remove the exceptions for rape and incest from the proposed abortion ban, which set up a little bit of a showdown among Republicans because some of them are wary of passing such a restrictive bill. Although the majority of the party certainly wants there to be an abortion ban in some capacity, a lot of them differ on what exactly that rule should be. Many of them wanted exceptions for rape and incest, while others did not. So the Senate committee basically removed it, and then it moves to the Senate floor, and they've been debating it for the last few days. So they started the debate on Wednesday, continued it on Thursday, and that's where we're at right now. It's Thursday afternoon. There's been no new news. It is possible by the time that this comes out that the Senate will have passed some version of the bill, maybe with those exceptions put back in, maybe not. We don't know what's going to happen at this point in time. Because basically the holdup right now is Democrats in South Carolina are basically just letting the Republicans battle it out. They have helped set up this fight. They have chosen not to vote, along with 3 moderate Republicans who chose not to vote as well. And I believe they were all women who chose not to vote. They wanted to keep those exceptions in the bill. Now, of course, they wanted this bill to be completely different, but if it's going to pass, which they know some version is going to, they just don't have the numbers to fight it. They absolutely wanted those exceptions in there. But instead of helping the Republicans in this, they've just decided not to vote and participate. And so if this bill passes, that party's going to have to explain to the rest of the state why they decided to take rights away, in addition to making it even harder in these horrific situations to get an abortion, if get one at all. So that's where we're at with that. Again, lots could change between now and then. But if you are in the mood for torturing yourself, you should watch some of these discussions that have been happening in the Senate hearings. It is bonkers, some of the things these men are saying, and it is mostly older white men who are making these decisions. Some of the things they've said on the floor are just ridiculous. They run the gamut from just being hilariously out of touch to being frightening and sad how little they know about what they are trying to legislate, which is women's bodies. Just some of the basics about pregnancy that they don't understand, and some of the hoops and mental gymnastics they're doing trying to explain their position, including talking about why it's okay for them in the state to say, oh, well, if a 15 or 16-year-old wants to get married and their parents are okay with it, that's cool with me. But it's not cool for that same 15 or 16-year-old, whether married or not, but someone that same age to be able to get access to contraceptives or birth control pills on their own and things like that. Why are they mature enough to get married but not mature enough to make that decision? It's just insane, some of the stuff that's coming out of these hearings. So moving on to the other big piece of news. We've talked about this a few times on the podcast, and I did not see this coming at all. But a judge this past week found that the South Carolina firing squad or electric chair options that people who are on death row are forced to choose between is unconstitutional. So a South Carolina judge has found that both the firing squad and electric chair are prohibited by the state's constitution. Of course, this is a decision that is sure to be appealed. So there will be more news on this forthcoming. I don't think we'll hear anything between now and when the episode comes out. But again, just put that caveat out there. There could be updates. So what happened was there was an order filed on Tuesday, back on September 6th. Judge Jocelyn Newman ruled that the South Carolina Department of Corrections is permanently barred from executing 4 death row inmates by electrocution or by the firing squad. In this order that was filed, the judge wrote that, quote, in 2021, South Carolina turned back the clock and became the only state in the country in which a person may be forced into the electric chair if he or she refuses to elect how they will die. In doing so, the General Assembly ignored advances in scientific research and evolving standards of humanity and decency, end quote. As I mentioned, an appeal to the decision is expected, which would ultimately take the matter to the state Supreme Court. And so that is a battle that you will see coming soon. My opinions on the death penalty evolved over the years, where, I was never like, hooray, the death penalty, but always was like, there are certain people who just don't deserve to be here. But I've kind of evolved to, I don't know if we should be making that sort of decision, even when it comes to the worst of us, as it were. As long as they're not in society, as long as they're in jail, I think that's kind of good enough for me. But in any event, we'll see where this goes. But the thing that really jumped out to me was the quote from the judge that said the General Assembly has been ignoring advances in scientific research and evolving standards of humanity and decency. That right there, to me, is like the definition of what the South Carolina General Assembly is in all facets, is evident by the abortion debate we're just talking about. And all the other conversations that we talked about, their goals and priorities, over the last couple years have been nothing of importance to South Carolinians, whether it be education, healthcare, things like that. It's been trying to, get laws about being able to open carry guns and what can and can't be taught in schools, and, saying all these horrible things about the LGBTQ plus community, and including trying to ban kids from being able to play a sport with the gender, that they are. Just horrible things like that. And it's continuing now, where we're still not focusing on the real important things here in South Carolina: education, infrastructure, discrepancies in different communities with healthcare. And, we have multiple counties, I think something crazy like 9 counties that don't have an OBGYN. Period, in the county. It's insane. So I think let's keep that in mind. General Assembly ignores scientific research and evolving standards of humanity and decency. Yeah, that's our South Carolina politicians. Well, the majority party in South Carolina. That is definitely a description of them to a T. So with that, let's go and let's have some better conversations, some more fun things. Let's talk to someone who's doing some good in this community. I'm excited for you all to hear this interview with Sarah about ARC Take Two. ARC, ARC, stands for Artist Resource Center, and she will describe exactly what sort of resources they are providing to artists and actors here in the Low Country. So without any further delay, here is my interview with Sarah Dionna. Joining me now, as promised, is my guest. She's a Charleston resident and actor who launched a business called ARC Take Two. She's going to tell us all about it. My guest today is Sarah Dionna. Thank you so much for joining me, Sarah. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is fabulous.
Oh, good. And I'm looking forward to myself learning a little bit more about the business you're working on, and also, letting you share what's going on, because I think a lot of people in the community will be interested in hearing about ARC Take Two. But before we get into that, I like to let my listeners, learn a little bit about the guest. So if you could, just provide a little bit of background about yourself, whatever you want to share with them, so they can get a better idea of who you are. Whether it's all the way back or where you're from, how you came to Charleston, anything that you want to share.
Okay, so I'll start with that my childhood dream was to join the military. So when I was 18 years old, I joined the Marine Corps and trained down at Parris Island, became a Marine. And then a few months later, while I was training to be an ammunition technician at Redstone Arsenal, I started fainting randomly. And that was really weird. I was what you would call a PT stud. I was excellent at physical training. I would outrun like even most of the guys. I could do 20 pull-ups just like the guys. And all of a sudden, like standing in promotion ceremonies or going for runs or doing pull-ups or doing anything, like I would just faint. And it took about a year before I got diagnosed with postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And most patients with POTS don't actually faint. And it's a lot more than just fainting. Everything that your body is supposed to automatically do for you, mine doesn't do correctly anymore. So that's heart rate, blood pressure, respiration, digestion, dilation and constriction of blood vessels, of pupils, all of that. Mine doesn't do correctly or at the correct time. And for many years, I was in and out of a wheelchair and in and out of hospitals all the time. And so obviously I couldn't be a Marine anymore. So I was medically retired out and rated at 100% disabled with the VA. And I was very lost and had no direction on what I wanted to do with my life because the military is all I ever dreamed of.
Right.
But then when I came down to Charleston in 2014, I started getting together with different photographers as a model for them. And then from there, I started getting more into the film world. And in 2014, I did my first ever background role on South of Hell here in Charleston. And as soon as I stepped on set, I fell in love and I knew that that is what I wanted to do. And so I started applying for different background roles, different shows that were filming here in Charleston. And from there, I started meeting a lot of other actors and people in the business. And I started taking acting classes. And I originally didn't even want to be an actor. What I wanted to do was tell stories myself. I wanted to be a director. But there were no directing classes. There were only acting classes. And in acting classes, that's when I fell in love with acting. And for actors, especially in the Southeast, when you get an audition, you have to tape it yourself and then you submit it to casting directors. And at that point in time, the only people who I knew that could do it professionally, they were charging about $100 per tape. So when auditions go out, there's like thousands of people who get the same audition. And so it's really difficult to get booked, and especially when you're first starting out, you know. And so I could not afford to pay $100 each time I got an audition. So I started teaching myself how to do all of that. And I got together with my friends. And so for the past 7 years, I've been taping auditions for local Charleston actors just out of my home. And then right before the pandemic, I had started what I call the original ARC, which stood for Actors Resource Center, where I was taping auditions more professionally, and I was doing photography for actors as well. And they could come in to ARC and work on their resumes, work on their demo reels, send out postcards to different agencies and casting directors to advertise themselves. And we also had a book club. And Heather Gilliland, who is one of my really great friends, and she's been in all kinds of different films and shows and commercials. She started Actors Focus, where she teaches, and she was teaching there at ARC as well. And it was great. Like everything, like people were in ARC every single day working on their craft. And the people who showed up on a consistent basis, all of them booked roles in movies and TV shows that you can go watch right now on Amazon, Netflix, Lifetime, and a whole bunch of other networks. And that's when I got booked in Lady of the Manor, which was written and directed by Justin Long and Christian Long. But then, of course, the pandemic happened.
Of course.
Yes, and the film industry shut down. So I shut down ARC. And I spent the pandemic working on my pole dancing career. I just trained every single day on aerials and dance. And I also continued to work on training as an actor. And towards the end of 2020, I discovered Arts in the Armed Forces, which was founded by Adam Driver and his wife, Joanne Tucker. And because of the pandemic, they started doing events online where they would have people come in like Judd Apatow, for example. And those people would pick a movie for all of us to watch, and then we would do a Q&A. And from doing that, I learned so much more. And like my dreams started getting bigger and bigger because I started realizing that all of these like famous people, they're all just people, you know?
Right. They started out just like you did.
Exactly. And that's what I really learned at these Q&As. Like they all had the same types of struggles that all of us here in Charleston have, you know? And so that it changed my entire life. And I also was heavily inspired by David Gordon Green. He is a director, and he directed the movie Stronger. And from that, I started writing a TV series about my own life, or inspired about my own life, to raise awareness for POTS, because there are no films out there about POTS. And it's a very poorly understood condition. And so thanks to Arts in the Armed Forces and from the inspiration from Stronger, I'm now writing that television series. And from Arts in the Armed Forces, I discovered Veterans in Media and Entertainment. And that's a nonprofit organization that is headquartered out in Los Angeles. And it's an amazing organization. Again, that organization changed my life because I started learning from top industry professionals, and it was all free to me because I'm a veteran, you know? Like there's no way I could have afforded any of that, you know?
Right.
And so now my life is on a completely different trajectory, and I feel like I am living my dreams every single day because now I have the education, I have the connections, and I'm doing everything that I've ever dreamed of, like since I got into the film world.
That's awesome.
And yes, and so I wanted to bring that to Charleston. Like I had to do that. So that's why I started Arc Take 2. And we will have industry professionals come in teaching classes. And I'm so excited to say that I talked to Karen Kraft, who is the head of VME, yesterday. And she told me that I can now announce that we are partnering with Veterans in Media and Entertainment. So 100% of all the classes and services at ARC will be free to military service members and veterans.
Oh, that's fantastic. And something you were able to take advantage of. So you definitely know how good that can be for somebody.
Yes, I definitely know the impact. And I know how much it has helped me. Like, I say art is my therapy, and it's changed my life completely. And yeah, so I want to be able to offer that to other people as well. And it's really, the arts have helped me transition back to the civilian world as well. And that's really what I want, because it's difficult doing that. And like I was only in the Marine Corps for 2 years, and it was still difficult for me to transition back to the civilian world because it's totally different.
Probably, I'm guessing, lack of the same type of structure. Number one, structured day. Every day you probably have a very regimented schedule. So you have that, more free time. And also, if you don't have a specific goal or someone telling you what to do, it might be tough to know what to do each day.
Exactly, yeah. And also just being able to relate to different people, because you have different experiences.
Sure.
And the stakes every day are completely different. Like in the military, it's life or death. A lot of things is life or death. And in the civilian world, it's just not like that,
Mm-hmm.
Like the problems are just different,
Of course, yeah.
And so that made it difficult. Like you won't ever hear me complain about anything. Because I'm just so used to just dealing with whatever.
Yeah, right. I can only imagine, how much different it would be. Like you said, some problems outside of, the armed forces will seem, trivial in comparison.
Yes, yeah. And I struggled with that. And like I would get frustrated with people, because I didn't understand. Like I just did not understand. But now I do. And like it's helped me have a lot more compassion as well. And I believe like with arts, it teaches you a lot more about empathy as well. In order to be a great artist, you have to be empathetic. And so, yeah, it's helped me so much.
And I'm sure you'll be able to help others, as well. And, I appreciate you sharing your story, your background. And, number one, before I forget, thank you for your service, for wanting to serve and starting that service. I'm sorry it didn't, work out the way you thought, but it's amazing that you were able, that was your dream as a child, and you'd still accomplish that dream of serving. And now you have a new dream, and now you're meeting that dream, which is really great to hear. So I wanted to make sure we said that. And yeah, I think, based on what you're saying, number one, I think it's cool too that you've kind of taken everything that you've gone through, including, the trials and tribulations, and you're incorporating it into this new business, whether it is bringing awareness to POTS, which I didn't know about. So I appreciate you giving kind of an explainer on that, as well as your experience in the military and how you were able to get some free classes and things because you were a veteran, and now you're passing that on. I think that's, really valuable, especially in Charleston. We have a lot of, people here that have served in different capacities and come through the city. And also for those who don't know, Charleston is becoming a pretty popular place for productions. It's not on the level of Atlanta, which some people say is kind of like the Hollywood of the South or the North or of the East Coast. But it's a little behind Atlanta, but it's still got a decent amount of productions that are here in town, and it employs a lot of people who would certainly find your services at Arc Take Two very beneficial.
Yes, absolutely. And you're right. Like there's so much more film coming here. And yeah.
And it's not just that, you're incorporating, like you said, after productions kind of shut down, you started working on like pole dancing and aerial things as well. And you're now, Arc Take Two, we've kind of talked a lot about actors and filmmaking, but you also are providing a space for voiceover artists, people who are interested in pole dancing or who want to be aerialists as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, at ARC, we have a voiceover booth. We have 2 audition rooms. We have classroom space. And yeah, we're going to have pole dance and aerials. Right now, I only have one pole. I'm working on funding to get more poles and to get more of the aerials in. But yeah, I have incredible instructors who are excited for me to get all that started so they can come in and teach. And there's a lot of, like I say, a lot of people in the film industry as well who are excited to come in and teach as well. And it's just going to be amazing. Like, it's a lot of work getting everything together.
Yes.
Like,
and you're not doing it out of your house this time around. You said you had people coming around, you were helping them record, audition tapes. You actually have a space, which I don't think we've mentioned yet, is in West Ashley.
Yes, it's in West Ashley. It's in this little mall, and it's actually right across from where the Righteous Gemstones green screen room is. So we're right here beside their production.
Very cool. That's also fun too. Anybody who comes to the space probably being able to sneak a peek at, some of the Righteous Gemstones production stuff. And I know outside in the parking lot, you can always see different trucks and things that are associated with the production, as well as like the big tower lights that, they're driving around. So, I'm sure people coming in seeing that too are gonna be like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like not only have I heard about these productions in town, but they're really going to see that right in their faces. They're, coming for classes and things.
Exactly. And for me, like, it makes me feel like it's all within reach. And that's the real message that I want to share at ARC, is that everybody's dreams within the industry, it is all within reach. It's right there. All you got to do is just keep going. Keep going. Like, I've been at it for 7 years now. My friends, they've been at it for years longer, and they're all now booking roles and everything. My best friend, she's down in Florida right now on set filming a commercial,
Oh, nice.
So yeah, like, it's a real job. If you want to be an actor, it's a real job. And yeah, that's all I want people to know.
I've seen people here, who have started just on a whim, had a free day and they responded to, a call for background actors, and just either fell in love with it, or they have free time, or they're self-employed or whatever. And so they'll do just that, and they'll make some extra money. And then there's people who really caught the bug, like yourself, and wanted to turn it into a career. And whether they have pursued acting or something else, maybe behind the scenes, that once they were on productions, jobs that they didn't even realize were out there. And they're working steadily, most of these people. I've had a couple of friends that have moved to Atlanta because they're getting steady work from productions there. I have friends who do, whether it's lighting or camera work, and there's enough productions coming to Charleston or South Carolina in general. And if not, again, nearby Atlanta, or like you mentioned, something could be in Florida. I know there's productions in North Carolina. There's enough nearby that they're working pretty consistently on production. So it's definitely, this isn't just a whim, like one production a year is in the area. There's plenty, not just here in Charleston, but nearby as well.
Yes. And there's a new movie that's coming in too, called Suncoast, and it's going to have Laura Linney and Woody Harrelson in it. And I know that they're casting background now.
Oh, so, nice. That's going to be in Charleston, or?
Yep, that's filming here in Charleston.
Very cool. I didn't know about that one, so I'm going to have to definitely look into it a little bit more once we're done chatting. But that's that case in point. Like, things are constantly here, constantly being filmed, and there's two popular series, Gemstones you've mentioned a couple times, and of course Outer Banks from Netflix that have been here and doing productions, and neither seems to be slowing down anytime soon. So yeah, there's always something going on. So I could see this being, your business being very beneficial for people. And I'm guessing it doesn't really matter what their background is as far as experience. Someone could have never been on a production and could probably learn a lot from your classes.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what I want, is for anybody who has ever thought about it, come on by. We'll teach you, we'll show you the ropes, and we are a resource center. We'll even send you out to other people, and because we really do want people to succeed. Like, I know how exciting it is, and I want that for other people too. And I really want to inspire people to create their own content as well. And so, like, all of my filmmaker friends from over the years, like a lot of them are going to be donating some of their gear that they don't use anymore.
Oh,
And
nice.
so members at ARC can come check that gear out anytime they want and go make their own stuff. Whatever it is they want to make, whether it's sketch comedies, short films, feature films, documentaries, whatever.
Now, the business itself, as far as the physical location, isn't open yet, or at least not 100%. What's the status right now? What are you eyeing as far as a potential opening for that?
I am doing everything in my power to have it open this week.
Unfortunately, not all. If it was up to you, I feel like you'd already be done and ready to go because you're driven and everything. But unfortunately, a lot of these things are out of your hands. You have inspections and things like that, I'm sure, that you're waiting on.
Yes. I have inspections, and then after that, and we will not be completely. I still need to get carpet, and I still need to get colorful paint for the walls and like little things like that. But I still need to get funding for that. But we're going to open anyway, because you know what? You don't have to be perfect.
That's true. Absolutely.
And that what I have definitely learned over the past couple of years is, you don't have to know how to do everything, but you do have to get started, and you just have to know the people who do know how to do the things that you don't know how to do and get them to help you. And so that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, you've mentioned a couple times you're having some friends of yours, colleagues that'll be helping with classes, trainings, and assisting folks as well. So you're going to have people who have a wide range of experience in the industry, it sounds like.
Yes, absolutely. And with Veterans of Media and Entertainment coming in, that's going to bring in more people as well, which is just incredible. And I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, that's really great. I really love that you'll have that partnership, to help veterans, people in the military, maybe, like you said, find more consistency after they're done serving, or just kind of find their next goal, their next dream, as you've been able to do, which is pretty great. So for the people who are listening, I think there's a couple things. One, if they're listening and they're interested in learning more about what services you have, costs, and keeping up with when everything is up and running, what's the best way for them to do that? And then on the other side, anybody who wants to help, if that is something you're accepting as far as donations, or whether it's money or equipment and things like that, what's the best way for all of those folks to get any of that sort of information?
Okay, I would absolutely love donations of any kind or any sort of help. I would love that. I'm very active on ARC Take Two's Instagram, so that would be at ARC Take Two. And the website is a work in progress, but that is arctake2.com.
Great. So once that, as you said, it's a work in progress, but once that gets rolling, you'll have like the services on there, class, times, prices, all that good stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Very cool. So we've kind of talked a little bit about the classes and services. I think one that's really interesting is you're going to have a recording booth for voiceover artists. That's something a lot of people, I don't think, would think about when they think about the film industry. I think just when someone hears that in their head, they're just thinking TV, movies, live action. So I think that's pretty great that you'll have that. But what sort of other things will you have on site, or what sort of classes or trainings are you planning on having for people, just to kind of give folks an idea of the sort of things you'll have when they're looking to break in?
Okay, yeah. So we're going to definitely I'm going to have voiceover artists who do voiceovers for commercials and for cartoons and various things like that. They'll be coming in to teach classes, and of course we'll have the booth so people can actually record. Oh, and also I have a friend who she records for audiobooks. Oh, nice. So she'll be coming in to use the space for that, and I'll also have teachers come in to teach how to do that. And we'll also have a lot of on-camera classes to teach people like all the technical things when you're on camera, when you're doing your auditions, like being on your mark and The frame is usually pretty tight, so you need to be still and you need to not blink very much. And there's just a lot of technical things. And so we'll have classes for that. And we're also going to have like just general acting classes as well, and like breaking down scenes and really getting into it and how to be authentic in your delivery. And we'll also have filmmaking classes. And I really want to encourage people to make their own content, of course. So we'll have tables set up so that screenwriters can come in and have table reads with actors, or they can even have like a writer's room and write together. And we'll also have like a lounge space to help people interact and get to know each other and all of that. And we'll have a library with different books that are industry related, and people can read those on site or they can borrow them. And we'll also have like the pole dance and the aerials. Pole dance is my absolute favorite. I love that. So I'll definitely be teaching pole dance classes. And yeah.
That sounds just like in the name, it's a resource center, and it sounds like you'll have plenty of resources regardless of what each person's individual, path is that they want to take, whether it's acting or directing or writing, whatever it may be. You'll have a nice variety for them. And I think it's great, number one, because I want to see the Charleston filmmaking industry just continue and to grow, and for there to be more productions. I think it's really cool to have that in town and having those jobs for people. But also, I applied to do background on a couple of things and was able to do it, and it was a lot of fun. But it's intimidating, even doing background where that you're not like the lead actor. This production is not going to sink or swim with you, but it's still intimidating. And so I can't imagine someone wanting to do something else on the production, that's more vital to what's going on. So having a space like, that someone could come and learn and instead of learning on the fly or applying to a job blindly, I think that'll help them kind of gain confidence as well. I think that'll be one of the big benefits of what you're doing as well.
Yeah, and I think that being around industry professionals and just realizing that they're all human.
Right.
I think that's going to help a lot, because that's what helped me. And I've learned this past year too, not to put people on pedestals, because I used to do that, and that's no good. So I hope that just by everybody interacting with everybody, it just helps them realize, oh, this is possible for me too.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you think of filmmaking, you automatically think of famous actors or directors or writers, producers. And yeah, like you said, that can, that you can put those folks on a pedestal. But number one, they're regular people, but also the people they work with are just regular people as well. You may not be the lead actor in a movie or television series, but there's tons of jobs associated with each. And they're all folks like yourself who just caught the bug after doing some work on a production.
Yeah. And something else that I really want people to know is that I think a lot of people have it in their head that either you're a starving artist or you're famous. And that's
Right.
not true at all. There's a whole happy medium in between that. And like my friends right now, they're all living their dreams right now. And perhaps they're not like famous names, but that's not even their goal. But they are consistently working, they pay their bills, and they're happy. Like they are all living their dreams. And yeah, I want that for everybody.
I think that's an important point as well. It's kind of like the music industry here in town, where there's musicians who, yeah, of course, would love to have a record deal and go on world tours and all that, but are consistently working and have a great, life right now. You don't have, like you said, it doesn't have to be the starving artist or, the multi-million-dollar actor or what have you. There's a nice medium where you are consistently working and have a nice life and are fulfilled from that. So I think that was a good thing to point out. And yeah, I appreciate you taking the time today to tell us all about it. I think this is a really cool idea. I'm excited to see how it grows. I will be putting the, like your Instagram and website link. I know it's a work in progress, but I'll be putting those in the show notes. So if anybody's listening and you missed that, you can go ahead and click on over and get more information from Sarah if you would like. Is there anything that I didn't ask you about or you haven't been able to touch on that you think's important that you want to share with the listeners before I let you go? Is there anything, that you think that, like I said, like I missed or anything like that?
I don't think so. I want everybody to know that this is a safe space. Everybody is welcome. And I'll make sure, so some people say that industry is really tough and that people are really hard on you. I'm not going to be bringing in people who are just going to be hard or be mean or put people down or anything like that. This is a place where we will build each other up. We'll fan each other's flames. We're here to support one another. This is a community. ARC is a community.
Awesome. I think that's well said. And just in having this conversation with you, I know what you're saying is true. I think it'll be a great resource for people. And yeah, I thank you so much again for sharing the story, taking your time today. And I learned a lot. I'm excited to see what happens. So yes, thank you again for joining me, Sarah. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate this.
And that is it. Another episode is in the books, 57 of them down. Thank you so much for listening, whether you've listened to all 57 or this is your first time. We really appreciate you listening, and thank you to Sarah for telling us about ARC Take 2 today. I think it's a really cool project. I'm excited to see how it grows and where it goes from here. If you like this show, please rate and subscribe if you are on a platform that allows that. If you are not on one of those, please share this podcast with anyone you think may be interested in hearing it. That does certainly help every time you all do that. You can also support the website and podcast by going to holycitycenter.com/shop. You can pick up some merchandise if you like. You can also go to patreon.com/holycitycenter to support HCS in all those ways as well. Also want to say thank you to Lindsay Marie Collins for producing the episode. She is with LMC Sound System, and she has a podcast called F&B Radio, which you should be listening to. I also want to thank Tyler Boone. He has the awesome music. He has let us use that. That is him in each and every episode that you are hearing. You can find him on all sorts of streaming platforms, and I recommend you do so. And as I mentioned already, but can't say enough, thanks to all of you for listening and supporting. I really appreciate it. Hope your summer, although it's still super hot and or rainy every single day, technically, everyone's back to school. The summer's sort of over. We're in September. That's fall, right? Football's starting. But I hope you all had a great summer and getting back into the groove of school and things like that for those who are doing so. I hope it's going pretty well so far. And we will hopefully talk to you sooner rather than later. Another reason to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. So until next time, good night and good luck.